plus 1 standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour for stories including our police being so afraid of being called Islamophobic that they redid an Islamic terrorist mugshot after she complained that she wasn't wearing a niqab. It kind of defeats the purpose of having a mugshot if your mug is covered. And 1 in 10 people using the NHS cannot speak English. The NHS is supposed to provide free healthcare for British people, but with no border control, we're providing healthcare for the whole world. And would you fight in the European army alongside French guys surrendering and German guys taking it a bit too seriously? With Britain's slide into anarcho-tyranny, I think I'd rather take my chances with whoever's invading us. I'm Leo Kearse, and tonight I'm joined by Jonathan Cogan and Nick Dixon to take you through Sunday's top stories. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Leo, thank you. Good evening. Your headlines at 11 o'clock. European leaders are set to gather next week for an emergency summit on the war in Ukraine as they consider how to respond to US President Donald Trump's push for an end to the war. Meanwhile, senior officials from Trump's administration will start peace talks with Russian and Ukrainian negotiators in Saudi Arabia. It's understood that US National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will head to the Middle Eastern country in the coming days. A 14-year-old boy has died after a Syrian refugee stabbed passers-by in the Austrian city of Villach today, leaving 4 others injured, 2 seriously. The 23-year-old suspect, who has not been yet named, is a Syrian national with legal residence in Austria. He had been living in a centre for asylum seekers and was not known to authorities. Austria's right-leaning Freedom Party leader Herbert Kickl said in a statement, "We need a rigorous crackdown on asylum and cannot continue to import conditions like those in Villach." Meanwhile, a mother and her 2-year-old daughter have died after a car was rammed into a crowd of people in Munich on Thursday. German police have said the 37-year-old woman and her child are the first fatalities from the incident, which injured at least 30 others. The suspect, an Afghan national, was detained at the scene. He was identified in local media as Farhad N. Back in the UK, the suspect in the Valentine's Day shooting of a woman at a pub in Kent may have entered the water at the Dartford crossing, according to police. It's after a woman in her 40s died following the shooting at the Three Horseshoes pub around 7 o'clock last night. A murder investigation is now underway, with police confirming they found a vehicle and a firearm on the Dartford crossing linked to the incident. And Elon Musk has fathered a secret 13th child with a 26-year-old MAGA influencer, according to reports. Ashley St. Clair made the unconfirmed claims in a Valentine's Day post on Musk's social media site X last night. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophia, and hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at the best of tomorrow's newspapers with the best of today's comedians. First things first, let's see what we have on the front pages. The Independent leads with Zelensky calls for European army to counter Putin, and it looks like they've got a photo of the Green Party conference. Oh no, it's Hamas releasing some hostages. The Mail on Sunday has Army Chief Prime Minister heading for dustbin of history. Tell us something we don't know. The Observer has Starmer set to join Europe crisis summit on Trump-Ukraine plan. And let's have a look at those front pages, starting with the Independent, Jonathan, and that European army. Are you looking forward to signing up?
I'm not sure we're going to have a choice, are we? We're going to be conscripted. Am I too old to be conscripted?
I don't think you're too old for anything, Jonathan.
No. Fair enough. Well, you know...
You don't do a mental age. It's just...
It's just physical.
Yeah.
I don't know. What am I, 26, 40? I'm slowly decaying. Right, Zelensky calls for European army to counter Putin. So President Zelensky has dramatically called for the creation of a European army, which is, I think, something the Germans once tried. As he warned countries on the continent now needed to fight for their own sake, and this comes after Trump suggesting that he's going to give less aid, less help to the Ukrainian war effort. Zelensky said that Europe must take the threat of further war seriously amid concerns that the US would not negotiate a peace deal with the Kremlin. And there's also a bit of concern here that if Trump does negotiate a peace deal, it's going to be on terms that Zelensky doesn't like and, you know, sort of behind his back, and that's what he's worried about.
Yeah, and giving away land, Ukrainian land, to Putin. But I mean, it kind of looks like that's inevitable at this point. Nick, I'm more concerned about this idea of a European army. I mean, I've been led by the same people who are saying we should have a European army. I've been told patriotism is bad, nationalism is a hate crime. What's the rallying call going to be for people to sign up to join this army?
I know what you mean. As Jonathan says, Germany can get a military together when they put their minds to it, and they're allowed to. But it wouldn't really be patriotic, would it? Because if it's an EU army, it's not really patriotism. It's a kind of globalist type army.
It's Eurasia.
Yeah.
Will be that mega state.
Not Eurasia.
No?
It's got...
They're a great band.
Anyway, it's a very... I mean, I think Zelensky's right, long-term, that Europe are going to need to do something because the US presumably is going to be more occupied with China. Many people think it's going to be more occupied with defending itself against China and Russia and helping Europe less. There might be something in that. I think he's a bit bold to be having a sort of a pop at Trump, though. He says Ukraine will never accept deals made behind our backs without our involvement. And he says Trump is negotiating without his sort of consent in a weird way. But it's a bad time to go against Trump when he's just won a crushing victory and he's at his strongest ever. But I do see his point. He doesn't think Trump's got his back. He wants to carry on the war and win it, and Trump wants to end it fundamentally, so there are odds.
Do you think this could force European countries and force Britain to sort of do away with all this sort of pan-globalist WEF, nationalism is evil and communism is great, do away with all that and actually have a return to seeing, patriotism as a virtue?
Well, that's the question. What would be the values of a European army? I mean, this is a problem. This idea has been put out many times. Right? It never actually happens. And if it does happen, given the state of the current armies in Europe, this is like a massively long-term project.
Yeah.
But this is the big problem: is what values would it follow? If it's the European army, doesn't it inevitably end up just following what Germany wants? Isn't that kind of the problem?
Yeah, has that ever caused problems in the past?
I hear it has. I'm no scholar of history, but I've heard it.
And also we've got the issue that Europe has allowed in mass immigration, so we've got millions and millions of people.
You're saying there already is an army forming in Europe?
Well, there's over 40,000 Islamists on terror watch lists in the UK alone. So that's an army right there. And also you've got to think, if people, if we've got a sort of fractured society, it's not a cohesive, solid, high-trust, homogenous society anymore. So people don't have the affinity with each other to want to go and die for each other.
Yeah. Also, who would make the food? Would it be the Italians? Would it be, the
hopefully it'd be the Italians.
You're right.
The Scottish in charge of catering.
Look at Trump. I mean, army recruitment's suddenly gone up under Trump because US patriotic values have come back.
Yeah.
So you're right. Under the current progressive elite that's completely failing, it is hard to see who would sign up for this army.
Yeah, and I sort of feel that our enemy is at home. The person who's persecuting and locking up British people for having opinions, such as Jamie Michael, who was arrested and charged for having pretty normal opinions, and he's a former Royal Marine. The people doing that are our government. They're not China. If China invaded, we would probably have a more liberal, tolerant government than we do right now. So that's something to think about.
Prefer British people.
Don't hate British people as much. Moving on, Nick, we've got the Daily Mail and the Army Chief speaking about Starmer.
Army Chief PM heading for dustbin of history. Mail on there, I guess it's, I forget what day it is myself. But this is Lord Dannatt, and he's the former head of the British Army. And he's saying we need to get the spending on the military up to 3.5% of the economy. It's currently at 2.3%. Labour talked about getting it to 2.5%. He says, no, you're doing this strategic defence review, but it's going to be hollow unless you're really prepared to get it up to 3.5%. Otherwise, you'll be consigned to the dustbin of history. And this comes at a time, remember, when the Sunday Times, as Ben Leo's just covered, are doing this story, PM to overrule Reeves and boost cash for defence. So Starmer's talking about ignoring Rachel Reeves, and later we've got David Lammy saying the same, and spending more on defence. That's weirdly an area where Starmer's aligned with Trump. They both think that America should pay less and Europe should pay more.
Yeah.
But even though they seem to have completely different views, Starmer wants to carry on the war. He wants Ukraine to be part of NATO. Trump very much doesn't. But they both agree that they should spend more. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to have to do something. There's a lot of pressure on him now to do this. Though where we're going to get the money from, I'm still not sure, since we don't have any.
We could print it.
We could take it away from all the money that's just spaffed up the wall and things like
that. You're going to say DEI, aren't you?
The Arts Council, DEI, the BBC. The entire BBC budget could just be suddenly the licence fee. All right, you've got a TV. That's paying for the army now. You've got a dishwasher. We've got a dishwasher licence now. Why don't we just introduce licences for all household appliances? Why not?
Why don't we
give them ideas.
Replace the BBC with a large tank. That's what
I'd prefer that, to be honest.
Just
less harmful for the country.
We've also got this story on here, the Elon secret 13th baby, which he's had with
Ashley St. Clair.
What's her name, sorry?
Ashley St. Clair.
Ashley St. Clair. Smashly is her nickname used to be, apparently.
Oh, really? Because she gets smashed?
No.
Drunk? No. Why?
That was it.
I'm not going to explain. I'll explain to you in the break.
Let's not get into that. She's acknowledged that she's having the Elon Musk baby. There were so many rumours, and she said that the tabloid media are essentially going to dox her anyway, so to protect her family, so to speak.
Right.
She came out and just said it. And so, yeah, this is trending a lot on Twitter.
But you'd want, if you're going to have anyone's genetics, you'd want, like, super billionaire genius genetics.
You'd want the brain less than the... Not so much the body, right? You might leave that if you could pick. She did write ages ago. In 2020, she said, I just want a husband, 2 kids and a small farm already. So she'll get the farm, but it will be in South Africa, which is not ideal. But, yeah, people are just pointing out... she's an interesting commentator. She's quite funny. She's been saying for ages that she wants to sort of get together with Elon things and been messaging him and things openly on Twitter. So lots of people saw this coming, so to speak. And Musk now has... Musk is doing his bit for the birth rate, though. No one can deny that.
But it's also sort of made a mockery of autistic men who say, well, I can't have sex with beautiful women because I'm autistic. That's, what I say. That's what,
Yes, but they do have to be the richest man in the world and be able to put life on another planet.
I do all right for myself. So that's our moving on. We've got the Observer with they've got the Ukraine crisis plan for Europe, but they've also got this story here about Google taking down content for Russia and China, and they seem to be quite scathing of Google taking down content for Russia and China, and seem to gloss over the fact that Google also takes down content for the British government and for the European government.
Well, they only don't like Google now because they've now taken all the those dates off the calendar. So they've taken like International Women's Year and all that stuff down. So now Google have gone based, apparently. But yeah, this is just another reminder that these massive corporations are not your friends. They will do whatever it takes to maintain power, maintain their profits in all these different countries. So basically, Google has cooperated with autocratic regimes around the world, including the Kremlin and the Chinese Communist Party, to facilitate censorship requests. And they've taken loads of stuff down. Apparently, there's 5.6 million items of content it is named for removal. So there's a secret trove of all the bad stuff they've taken down. It's like Indiana Jones, a warehouse. Wouldn't you just love to rummage through that and just see what was there?
I think most of the time I do when I'm on the internet.
Is this surprising? Is anyone else... I just thought we all knew this kind of thing they did. Their motto used to be, don't be evil. Then they changed it to do be evil. That's not true, guys. But it's not surprising. We saw what the Biden administration was up to, this big tech collusion, all this stuff. USAID, I'm not surprised by anything
USA stuff
anymore.
Is incredible. I'm listening to a pod about that at the moment.
I'm not saying that's strictly related, but I'm just not surprised by what left-wing tech companies doing bad stuff.
Yeah, and I think this idea that only Russia and China have autocratic governments that put propaganda in front of their people is kind of blown out of the water now. We know the West is...
We know the CIA killed JFK.
Yeah. And we know the West does psyops, and it's all coming out with this USAID stuff.
And now we've got Musk running X. My fairly average tweet about J.D. Vance is on like 56,000 likes. I think he's boosting pro-Vance stuff. So it's just a different kind of propaganda, the kind that we like. Yeah. And that's the key.
Yeah, I like how you're giving us a live update on how many likes that tweet's got.
People have asked for it. People want that.
Let's have a look at some more front pages now. The Sunday Telegraph has architect of Chagos deal raided over cash scam. That's not Keir Starmer, though. That's a Mauritian politician. The Sunday Express has Britons living in fear for economy, and the Daily Star on Sunday has TV Alan, evil spirit, called my mother many asterisks, which we don't know what they are. But let's have a look at the Sunday Telegraph and that Chagos story, corruption in Mauritius. I would never have thought it.
Yep, architect of Chagos deal raided over cash scam. The former Prime Minister of Mauritius had his house raided for 3 hours. They'd already raided his associate's house and found tens of thousands in cash in some suitcases and some Rolexes and Cartier watches and some UK visas. Basically, it's like they'd raided Andrew Tate's house. Just kidding, Andrew. He knows we're bros. But, come on. This is madness. And so, yeah, the visas, the watches, and cashing over a dozen currencies. And obviously Chris Philp, who now is sort of apparently obliged to pop up and comment on every single news story, is saying, well, how can we... Britain give them money when it's going to end up in some suitcase somewhere. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, and apparently we're going to give them £52 billion. We're giving them money to give away the Chagos Islands. I don't really understand. Surely Mauritius should be paying us. And it's obvious that, the islands aren't going to be well looked after under Mauritius if this is the type of person who's going to be running them.
It just seems to be a lot of corruption in these kind of deals. And
in Mauritius as well.
Yeah, is it quite... I don't know much about it. Is it a corrupt country, would you say?
No, that's a Mauritius rumour.
Nice.
Sorry.
We practiced that backstage.
First joke, 3.5 years.
We didn't. We'd come up with a funny one if we did.
Yeah, true. No, that's great. And also, on this Telegraph front page, we have Badenoch, Britain must fight for free speech. So this is basically Kemi saying that Labour are going to do everything they can to quash free speech under sort of hate crime laws and all that kind of stuff, which is... maybe they should have run on this kind of thing, you know, before the last election.
Instead of bringing in the hate speech laws, maybe Kemi's law could have done something to stop them. So hopefully she's going to pledge to roll back all the speech crime laws. Moving on to the Express, Jonathan, we've got worries about the economy in Britain.
Yes, Britain's living in fear for economy. So fresh misery for Labour as a shock poll reveals that the British are not happy. When are they? So 15% of the survey think that Reeves is doing a good job, and 67% are against axing winter fuel payments. So it doesn't really seem like they've got their finger on the pulse. This is Labour of what the country want. 15% think Reeves is doing a good job.
I mean, I'm not an economist like she is, but 15%, that's 15 out of 100. That doesn't sound like a lot, Nick.
No, it's pretty bad. I mean, 50% said she was doing a good job, or bad job, sorry, whereas, well, the same thing if it's 50%, maybe you could... But Kwasi Kwarteng was apparently on 53%.
Nice.
Just before he...
I met him the other day.
Nice guy, but he didn't go that well for him with the old budget. So she's in the kind of quasi territory.
Oh, way below. 15% think that she's doing a good job.
No, but 50%
like
said
quasi.
Bad job.
Right.
Piece. And 53% in September 22 said he was doing a bad job.
Right.
I'm saying she's 3% off quasi levels.
Yeah.
Also, don't question me again, by the way.
Okay. Kick me under the table.
Anyway, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's pretty bad. And you've got David Lammy on the previous paper. We didn't actually get onto it, but saying she needs to boost defence spending. Starmer saying it.
Yeah.
You know, so she's in trouble. But you can't really get rid of your Chancellor, can you? Because it just looks so bad for you if you're Starmer.
Yeah. So maybe we could just get rid of the whole lot of them. How's that for an idea?
Also, Kylie Minogue is back on a world tour, which means that Bruce Devlin is swelling up as we speak.
Right, is he going to be a
big fan?
That's great to hear. Well, that's the front pages done and dusted. Join us in the next section for British police bending over backwards to accommodate the wishes of Islamic terrorists. Something's never changed. Labour have decided to increase the amount of money going to asylum seekers, and will Elon Musk cause the next pandemic? Find out in a moment.
I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
An absolute monster. It took Chloe and Sean Ing 90 minutes to reel in this gigantic 8-foot-long monster fish from Chigborough Fisheries in Essex. And upon weighing this enormous marine beast, it was found to have been 7 pounds heavier than the existing British record, a 143-pound catfish caught also in Essex. But as I understand it, you actually went for a Chinese meal when fate struck. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So I was fishing an area of Chigborough where you have to fish at a fair distance. So I cast my rods out and then we ordered a Chinese. And yeah, so I got the bite at about 10 to 8 at night. And then about 20 minutes into it, my phone started ringing, the Chinese guys at the gate with my delivery. So I had to send a couple of guys off to go and get it. And then, yeah, the fight, obviously, you can't just stop the fight to go and get your Chinese. So, yeah, the fight went on, for about an hour and a half in total. There's no net in the world that's big enough for this fish. So we had to send out... First of all, I sent out a mate, Alex. He went out there to go and basically use what we call a sling. So that's a safe apparatus that we use to take the fish out of the water. He then went and he turned around and he was like, "We're going to need another sling." So then we sent out another friend with a sling, and these slings are 4 foot long each. So then we had the catfish wrapped up in 2 slings, and it was still slightly longer than that. And then we got to a point where we was like, now we've got to try and get it out of the water to photo, to weigh it, because obviously we knew then that it was possibly going to be a UK record.
GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's have a couple of your comments from gbnews.com/your-say. We've got Peter Banks who says, typical that the Marxist Starmer will cozy up with others like him in the corrupt EU. The leaders of all these nations should be jailed for treason, so bring back capital punishment. A lot of disparate points there. A general vibe, don't know how much sense. Mark Johnson says, where's your milk, Leo? Here it is. I've got it, don't worry. I'm going to get thirsty in a moment. And Leslie Brine says, we've already got and are paying for an EU army. It's called NATO. Good point, Leslie. Well, moving on, we've got The Independent now, and British police will arrest British people for silent Christian prayer, but they bend over backwards to accommodate the demands of Islamic terrorists who want to kill us. Nick.
Yes, it's new custody image released of woman in niqab because of distress. This was Farista Jami, which may well be the pronunciation, from Stratford-upon-Avon. And an image came out of her face. Then she said her defence said she was distressed by that image, so one came out of her fully covered up, which is great, isn't it? If you have done anything, you're like, hey, I'm covered up, so no one knows who I am.
And this is a police mugshot, so this isn't, this isn't a picture she'd asked to be taken. This is an official police mugshot that they release of a criminal.
Yeah, and she'd been found engaging in conduct in preparation for terrorism. She wanted to help the ISIS-K, a bit like Special K, the Islamic State in Afghanistan, and she'd shared graphic and violent extremist material on social media. She'd researched weaponry. So, yeah, she's pretty serious, and but they've sort of capitulated due to her distress. And it's this, we have a million stories, like we have a story like this every night, at least one, because it's a feature, not a bug.
Of all the things for her to be currently distressed about, you wouldn't think how she looks in her mugshot would be
No, that would be quite low down.
When she's planning to blow herself up.
Yeah, and she was going to go and be a martyr herself. Yeah, extraordinary. Yeah, but this is what we have now. We have this ECHR, human rights, Starmer world, which just loves criminals. And it's like, oh, we're worried about your chicken nugget. Your kid doesn't like chicken nuggets. And it's just a new story like this every night.
It's like the paedophile. There was a Zimbabwean paedophile who we couldn't deport because he might face intolerance for his paedophilia in Zimbabwe.
And a Pakistani paedophile who they're worried about his children being unduly affected if we deported him. This is why I say it's a feature. This is the system we have now. It's a system of kind of anarcho-tyranny, it's kind of leftist thinking, the sort of Rousseauian thinking. I don't know what you call it, but it sees the criminal somehow as the real victim.
Yeah.
And the British people who are law-abiding are basically evil.
And the state just shakes down the law-abiding middle-class people and polices their speech and shakes them down for money, whereas criminals are allowed to... we capitulate to criminals. I mean, even though she was found guilty of, terror offences...
Of the worst thing you can do, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. We're still bending to her whims. It's insane.
I like the way you say whims with that Scottish accent. Yeah, we need more of that.
We do. Well, we've got The Observer now with a warning that Elon Musk could cause the next pandemic. I thought he'd stopped funding Wuhan bioweapon labs, Jonathan.
Oh, that's racist. It came from a wet market, which is also what Elon calls his DMs.
Your Twitter account's getting taken down.
Yeah.
Deboosted.
OK, Musk's takeover of US health agencies raises pandemic threat, experts warn. So DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, headed by billionaire playboy philanthropist Elon Musk, has requested access to sensitive systems at multiple health agencies in the US. So basically, what's being said here is Scott Corey, who is a former chief information officer for an agency within the US Department of Health, he's basically saying the potential for harm is really significant here. But this whole thing just does seem a bit empty and a bit fear-mongery because it's Elon. They're worried that because all these changes are happening and all this inefficiency is being cast aside, there's going to be some kind of calamity. But I was thinking, don't the Democrat-funded scientists like pandemics? Don't they want pandemics because that's how they make their money?
Yeah, and also left-leaning governments love pandemics because they get to print lots of money and have lots of control over people and pump out propaganda to a nation in a state of fear. And I think, you know, what we've seen from the last pandemic is that, you know, actually having all the lockdown and everything that the left said wasn't the best thing for us, and we should have just done what Musk would have done.
Yes, and that's the key. Disruption is necessary. Not just in health, but, you know, in all sorts of areas. That's why we have DOGE. So there's a perfect quote here from an employee of the CDC. In my whole time in the federal government, I've never seen this. It's just a complete upheaval. This is the whole point, and we need this complete upheaval. And Dominic Cummings has been very good on how we need this in this country as well, because we've got the civil service, we've got the blob. And it's a bit like Twitter. Speaking of Musk, when he came into Twitter, it was chaos. He sacked sort of 80% of people. At first, everyone was like, this is a mess. But now it seems to be working quite well.
Yeah.
This is what we need.
And also Twitter's return to profitability. So it's actually with far lower overheads than it did before.
He's basically Twitter-filed the entire US government, which is quite interesting. He's dug in, seen where the corruption is, and who knows where this is going to go. Maybe other countries will follow suit.
I hope we do. We've got the Telegraph now, and Labour has listened to people's concerns about illegal migrants and completely ignored them. They're going to give asylum seekers more money and help them stay in the country, Nick.
It's amazing. Asylum seekers to be given more money to fight claims under Labour. The government is set to boost spending on lawyers for immigrants, which could be the name of the Labour Party. Lawyers, you know, like Médecins Sans Frontières, but like lawyers for immigrants. That is so perfect. And these plans would increase fees by at least 10% to help clear the 100,000-strong backlog of asylum claims. Now, of course, you don't really want to clear the backlog because that just means letting them in the country. So the one thing about the Tories, they were so inefficient that at least you didn't let people in because they were just all in this backlog. You didn't let them stay officially. So, you know, you could argue. But they're going to pay lawyers more, so we're going to have loads more people here. Because they're not going to be deported, are they? Because if they just don't like chicken nuggets, so they end up staying. And again, it says it's raising questions about our membership of the ECHR. It's ruled by lawyers, is a quote here. Absolutely. And it's going to cost the taxpayer as well. It's going to go from 47 million to 61 million a year. So we're paying for this rubbish.
Yeah, it is absolutely nonsense. And the laws just seem to be so much on the asylum seeker's side. And when I say asylum seeker, you know, most of the time it's somebody who's gaming the asylum system to get into the country. It's not a genuine asylum seeker because most of them return to the place that they're claiming refuge from on holiday to see friends and family, which doesn't suggest that they're under the risk of that much persecution. There's a Nigerian woman who failed 8 times to secure asylum and was granted the right to stay in Britain only after she joined a terrorist organisation.
She joined Labour.
So she couldn't be sent back to Nigeria because they have anti-terror laws.
Wow.
And she'd have been persecuted, i.e., you know, dealt with appropriately.
That is obviously just playing the system, and the fact that it's allowed is kind of crazy. But do we know the terror agency she joined?
No, I don't know.
That'd be interesting to know.
Why do you assume Leo knows? I mean, if it's not about Ukrainian drones, he won't.
Oh, he's a Renaissance man. He knows lots.
True.
Ukrainian drones are amazing, Nick, and I don't think they'll need Europe's help with the drones that they've got. Anyway, that's it for this section. Join us in a moment for Pride taking over the church, hundreds jailed for speech crimes, and South Africa turning into Zimbabwe. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It's staying cold as we move through the rest of the weekend, some patchy rain in places, the risk of some snow as well, and lots of grey skies to come. High pressure keeping most weather fronts at bay as we move through the next few days. Fairly cloudy picture across the UK to end Saturday. Still some outbreaks of rain across the east, the risk of some snow for a time across parts of East Anglia as well. And very little change as we head overnight. Lots of cloud for many of us, some further rain and drizzle in places, temperatures dropping close to freezing. So there is the risk of some icy stretches first thing on Sunday morning. Grey skies for many of us, some glimmers of sunshine across the Highlands and the Western Isles as well as southwest England. So let's look at the details for Sunday morning. Showers across Orkney and Shetland as well as northern and eastern parts of mainland Scotland. The risk of some snow in there too. Sunshine across the west here and cloudy skies for Northern Ireland and northern parts of England as well. Fairly cloudy across the rest of England and Wales, some patchy rain in places, a few glimmers of sunshine towards the southwest. But those grey skies are likely to continue for most of us as we go through the day. A keen southeasterly wind making it feel chilly for many of us once more. A few glimmers of sunshine around the coast. Most places drier compared to Saturday, but the clouds thick enough for some spots of rain at times, particularly across Northern Ireland and eventually western Scotland. Temperatures 3 or 4 degrees in the east, up to 7 or 9 towards the west and southwest. Chilly start to Monday morning, some fog patches, some frost and ice in places too. As we go through the day, the cloud may break up a little more compared to the weekend to allow some brighter spells to develop, but rain soon moves in to Northern Ireland and snow across Scotland possible as we head through Monday and into Tuesday. Eventually, though, it will become milder.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got a couple more comments from gbnews.com/yoursay. We've got Neil Yorkshire lad who says, much better panel tonight. I like it when Leo is running it. Thank you very much. Jesse Jones says, does Leo pay for his milk or is he on a Rachel fiddle with the GBN petty cash? There's a big fridge full of milk, so have some of that milk, maybe more than other people drink, but no, it's not a fiddle. I'm just drinking the milk. And Martin Watson's replied to that saying, Leo's in the pocket of big milk, the Mufia, which is very good.
Big Farmer, that kind of works.
Big Farmer as well, dairy farmer. Cassandra Stewart says, Adil Khan, a member of the notorious Rochdale grooming gang, told a judge he should not be deported because his son needed a role model. And that just shows the kind of excuses.
And there's one that says I'm good looking, but I can't find it.
I find it. It says from Elizabeth Paul, says, love Nick with that laid back button open at the neck. Wowzer. Elizabeth, 75.
Come on.
It made me so wet I slipped off my chair.
That's not in there.
That's true. I read that as well, and that was all true. Anyway, we've got the Telegraph now. There's a reason we can't afford the NHS. It's the health service for the whole world, Jonathan.
Sounds kind of nice when you say it like that.
No, not when you...
I mean, it's going to die.
Not when you see how much tax you pay.
Yeah, that's true. OK, almost 1 in 10 patients referred to NHS does not speak English. So, of the electronic referral letters sent to patients by the NHS, around 9% had to be translated into a foreign language, according to figures disclosed by the government under transparency rules. They don't like those. So, the highest number of translations had to go into Urdu, and the second highest was Bengali, followed by Polish. So it seems that a fair amount of resources are being spent on translation, and obviously there's always complaints that the NHS is underfunded. It's being spent on things like this. I would imagine now with ChatGPT you can kind of do that free and instantly, so maybe that's not the issue. Yeah. I feel like I'm missing the issue here, Leo.
What do you mean you're missing the issue?
There's a bigger issue at play.
Oh, you mean mass immigration?
Well, maybe. Or yeah, I guess it's the fact that it's perhaps a resource being spread too thin for people who weren't necessarily born in this country.
Yeah, well, I think, if we've got people, but the NHS wasn't set up to deal with people who speak Urdu. So, I mean, I don't see why the NHS is also having to pay for translators. It's like, if you want treatment on the British National Health Service, come along with a translator so you can, use our services.
Or don't translate it, but you don't know what surgery you're getting.
Well,
whatever they give you.
I was in a place where I was going for a blood test. Turns out I got low B12. Doesn't matter. I was behind a woman who couldn't type in her own date of birth and month of birth. That was baffling her, that alone.
Oh, was she American?
And her daughter had to help her. And luckily, she figured it out seconds before I smashed up the whole place. But, come on, that's pretty basic, isn't it? I could even do that in, Spanish and French or something. Noviembre, you know what I mean? It's not that hard. Numbers and the month you're born, come on.
Yeah, and this suggests that the problem is rapidly accelerating. So the translation rates in the NHS appear to have more than doubled in the last 5 years. So in the last 5 years, we've got more than twice as many people from, I'm assuming, from overseas, or either that, or people just live here and don't bother to learn the language. I mean, I've still got the accent. So this seems to suggest that our borders have just suddenly been flung open, way wider than ever before.
I actually like Jonathan's idea. You go in, you don't know the language, the surgery's a lottery. Yeah. That would put people off.
When I went to Japan, whenever I went to a bar, I would just order something in Japanese, no idea what it was.
Right.
Didn't always go well.
No.
Didn't always go. One time I just got like
when you got out of the coma, you came back home.
Moving on, we've got the Telegraph now, and a Christian church has converted to worshipping the modern religion of LGBTQ, which includes people of age-appropriate sex with adults. Nick.
Yeah, it's church covers altar with trans-inclusive pride flag in contravention of canon law. This is in Sunderland somewhere, and it's the usual nonsense. They put the Progress pride flag over the altar, and Rev. Dr. Ian Paul puts it very well. He says this is a violation of canon law for 2 reasons. First, this is not inclusive but exclusive. It excludes people who do not accept the false claims of transgender ideology. Secondly, it distorts and misrepresents the purpose of the communion table, which is inherently inclusive, in that it invites all to share in and receive the gifts of bread and wine, which remind us that Jesus died for all. So there you go. He's saying it couldn't be more inclusive already, so you didn't need to add this divisive flag, which, of course, it's allegiance to a different ideology that's counter Christianity. It's part of the total state where everyone has to have the same view. And I'm sure some of them are just individually gullible as well, or maybe actually malignant. Go on.
Well, yeah, and some of the beliefs under gender ideology are religious beliefs. I mean, the idea that I'm a woman just because I say I'm a woman, you know, technically, according to every Guardian journalist, I'm a woman because I say I'm a woman.
And you do say it a lot.
I do say it a lot.
And you do complain a lot.
Look at my pronouns. I'm a woman. Yeah. You know what I mean? Check out my Twitter bio. She/her. It makes me a woman. But that's a religious belief. That's like the Catholic belief that, you know, when the priest blesses the bread and the wafer and the wine, they literally turn into the body and blood of Jesus, the transubstantiation.
Yeah. Yes, I was just going to say transubstantiation. You said it quicker. Yeah, but I sort of like this calling woke a religion because it doesn't reach the level. You know, it's a sort of an insult to the great religions to say that. It's a fad ideology that's associated with leftism. It's not even a religion.
Yeah, but in 1 AD, Christianity was seen as a fad ideology by some.
Well, by some, Leo. It's a much better one. And if it's a fad, it's lasted a heck of a long time.
It has, yes. The one true religion. Anyway, moving on, we've got the Telegraph again with evidence of Britain's slide into communist authoritarianism, Jonathan.
Yeah, I could read this article, or I could just ask you to imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever.
Yeah.
So that's what this
still
is.
Read it.
Still read it.
I like the Orwell reference.
Do both, thank you. I've read a book. Mr. Nice.
One.
Yeah, hundreds charged with online speech crimes under Orwellian crackdown. So hundreds of people have been charged with online speech crimes amid claims from the Trump administration that civil liberties are under threat here in Britain. We saw Kemi talking about that a little bit earlier on. We see this every day on this show. Almost 300 people have been charged with spreading illegal fake news or sending threatening communications since the Online Safety Act came into force in 2023 under a Conservative government, we should add.
Yeah.
And also dozens of people have received convictions under the Act. So hundreds of people have been charged and then, you know, dozens have been convicted. So that's still very worrying. And basically, a lot of this comes under a lot of people have been charged for spreading fake news, but obviously, what is fake news? Anything that kind of inconveniences the government.
Yeah,
that's fake news.
Yeah, fake news would be the idea that the COVID originated in a lab as opposed to
a wet market.
In a wet market, which was fake news at the time. It would get your YouTube account taken down, but now has been proven to be.
Or that the vaccine may have not been 100%. Efficient in stopping you from getting COVID or anything like this.
And what we're seeing as well, Nick, is that people are being, the criminal justice system, certainly after the Southport riots, sort of strong-armed people, a lot of people are saying, into pleading guilty when they weren't really guilty. And we're seeing the people who pleaded not guilty, such as Jamie Michael, then being found not guilty by the jury. And Jamie Michael was found, it was 17 minutes it took the jury to decide he was not guilty.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, as Jonathan says, the Tories started this, but it's sort of reached its apotheosis with Labour. And it's so nebulous, anyone can be charged with anything. And it's good to see that Trump is now threatening, or there's talk that he's been threatening, or people close to him have been threatening tariffs if this carries on, though Labour have said it's not open for negotiation. But something has to happen. It's part of this larger trend where this progressive liberal regime can't handle the real problems, so it polices speech instead. That's the fundamental. They're not tackling the very real problems, and this is why they will be destroyed across Europe, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the one positive to come out of it, the one silver lining, is that a lot of the people on the left who cheered on hate speech laws, Online Safety Act, things like that, are now falling foul of it. Like Andrew Gwynn. Is it Andrew Gwynn, the Labour MP who was brought down by jokes in a WhatsApp group? It's nice to see people being hoisted by their own petard. Always. Moving on, we've got the Daily Mail, or the Sunday Mail, sorry, with a gay Republican telling lefties to stop being such a bunch of pansies, Nick.
Yeah, it's exclusive. I'm a gay Republican who's sick of the left claiming trans Americans are in so much danger they need their own sanctuary city. So this is Alexander Haggerty, who's 30, apparently, the first openly gay state committee man in Massachusetts. And but this story really belongs in 2018. It's like he's saying, I'm an openly gay man. Look, that's a great thing to be in America. Fifth in line for the president's seat, Scott Bessent is an openly gay man. So the point is, though, to me, this is just that we know now, yes, MAGA's totally liberal. It's totally pro-gay. The left are mad and hysterical, as he says here. Nothing new, really, is it, in this?
Yeah. Did you see the video of the members of the trans community saying they need the sanctuary city?
Yeah.
It was quite something. It was quite a spectacle.
When I first watched it, I thought it was like a comedy skit.
Monty Python.
Because they were all just ridiculous. You know what I mean? I think this is the difference. You know, we've now got gay people on the right and on the left. The right are now, very inclusive, as we know. But the gay people on the right are smartly dressed and good looking, whereas the gay people on the left just look absolutely mental. It's like the circus.
Sanctuary cities themselves are completely mental. This is a city that doesn't have to reveal its data on illegal immigration to the federal government.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of just like a rebel state, isn't it?
A rogue nation.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah,
very strange.
Absolutely. Well, we've got the final section coming up next. So you've got to find a way you shouldn't call disabled people inspiring, the world's biggest sperm donor by volume, it's not me, and why we're all going to be wiped out in a few years. Hooray! See you in a moment.
That took a sharp turn.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heavy showers and thunderstorms affecting the Adriatic and Ionian Sea coastlines, and this could also bring a risk of snow to Croatia. This will be through Saturday and also into Sunday, where low pressure largely dominates. But as we head further west across the Mediterranean, it should be largely settled, bar a little bit of cloud and perhaps the risk of the odd shower across Portugal and northwestern Spain. But Madeira and Tenerife largely settled, and it remains largely settled into next week, with temperatures widely in the mid-teens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It's the body image thing that concerns me. It's young girls watching Love Island and really skinny girls and young boys
hit the gym after this. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, they're seeing perfect bodies on the screen.
You don't need to go in the gym, Maymoon. You look gorgeous as you are, love.
I know. You see, the reason I don't enter anything like that, Kerry, is you're
going to win.
Exactly. And it's not fair. It's not fair, I think, on everybody else being there.
It's not fair.
No.
So, Kerry, what do you think about the body image thing? You know, when you talk about your daughter, is that something that you'd worry about, her comparing herself to the likes of what she sees on the screen?
Now, this is where there's a conflict of interest for me, because I've been brought up in this industry since I was 17, so it's massively affected me. I mean, when you're put on the front cover of magazines after having a baby with a stretch mark in the circle of shame, it does do a psychological effect on you. I think a lot of celebrities who've been around for so many years, as I have been affected by that. But everyone has to bear in mind, I've had my children. I'm in my 40s. I feel I'm entitled to have my tweaks and try and improve on what I think are going down south, and health and safety, tripping over any things that I don't want to be tripping over anymore. But I definitely do believe, majority of the young girls that go on Love Island, they all have the same big lips, the same big eyelashes, all the butt implants, and they're barely in their 20s. You know, it's if you go to the airport now, I remember going to the airport and I looked around and all the girls looked exactly the same.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, and let's have a couple more comments from gbnews.com/yoursay. Catherine Blatchley says Leo should be on Headliners at least 3 times a week. I am. I'm going to be on tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there we go. Anyway, let's do some stories. We've got the Telegraph now with Donald Trump fighting racism in South Africa, Jonathan.
He's gone woke, as they say. So white South Africans protest against racist laws and thank Trump for his support. So hundreds of white South Africans gathered at the US Embassy in Pretoria on Saturday to support Donald Trump and protest what they claim is racism by their own government. So these protesters, they held placards saying thank God for President Trump, and they displayed other messages supporting him and criticizing laws laws put in place by the South African government, which they say are discriminating against the country's white minority. So many of these protesters are from the, I think, Afrikaans community, and I think they are descendants of Dutch, I would say Dutch colonialists, but I don't know if that's the right phrase. Is that right? Well, anyway, I don't know too much about this. Like most stories, I've got a dangerous amount of knowledge, just enough to talk about it, just enough to get myself in trouble.
I've never seen you properly talk about one.
No, there's a first for it. But what's happening, basically, it looks like their farms are being seized by a government on the grounds that they're white. Is that right?
which is sort of dangerous echoes of what happened in Zimbabwe, which of course turned Zimbabwe into an economic basket case when the people, the friends of the ZANU-PF, the friends of Mugabe who were placed in the farms, couldn't actually do any farming. They weren't any.
Didn't happen like Ukraine in the 50s.
Yeah, it was a different thing. But another issue here is you've got Julius Malema, who's a South African politician who's been shouting and having rallies in front of thousands, tens of thousands of people, shouting to kill the Boer, which is basically kill the white man.
Yeah, extraordinary. And Elon Musk has been calling out. That's another thing to realise. Well, it's not just Afrikaners who are mainly Dutch. It's people like Elon Musk who has English ancestry, who's not Afrikaner. Some people think he is. So it's a bit different. But I think any white people are in trouble in South Africa. I mean, there's this idea, the land can be redistributed for the public good, which is socialism, but with a horrific sort of racial element, as you said. I love this statement here. While race has long framed South African politics, the country has been largely successful in reconciling its racially diverse people in the years after apartheid. Lol. No, I thought there's The Guardian for a second. This is the Sunday Telegraph.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that nonsense? People struggle to accept this, because it's white people, they sort of struggle to accept. You've got the persecution of the farmers, horrific things going on, and people struggle, don't they? You can be shouting, kill the Boer.
Yeah.
People don't want to, they want to turn a blind eye.
Yeah, absolutely. And
except Trump, who's now offering refugee status.
Yeah, to white South Africans. Which, I mean, given what happened in Zimbabwe with people being killed, and, white farmers are being killed in South Africa as well. So, there's a real threat. Given that we're giving asylum in the West to people who just pretend to be gay or pretend to be Christian or whatever, we could give asylum to people who are actually being killed.
Well, if they join a terrorist group, we'll let them in.
Yeah, they just need to do that. Anyway, we've got the Daily Mail now, and in case you wondered why Britain is such a cesspit of socialism these days, it's because the socialists indoctrinate their kids very young, Nick.
Yeah, it's Labour ministers linked to a radical socialist Scots nursery accused by critics of brainwashing toddlers. So this is a trust in the name of Ed Miliband's father, Ralph Miliband, who was quite famous in his own right. And this trust funded a playgroup which teaches toddlers to be radical socialists. It's the Red Sunday School in Glasgow. And they do things like, they have Halloween costumes where you dress up as Starbucks, corporate pride, the concept, which is getting quite abstract, or Keir Starmer bribery scandal, which is a funny costume. If you're going to go for anything,
Stole my idea.
what have you come as? Yeah, it's niche. That is niche. But I like that, for them, probably Starmer's like ultra right wing or something. So they're like, let's go as the Keir Starmer bribery scandal. Imagine telling a toddler that's what you're going at. He's like, can't I just be Incredible Hulk?
Gonna be Blue's Clues, yeah.
Yeah, you're the concept of corporate pride.
Very abstract. And also some of the books that these very young children are being forced to read in this sort of socialist playgroup. Baby's First Famine. That's no good. Goo Goo Gulag. And a Kill Whitey. Very, very strange.
And Uncle Joseph was right.
Let's squeeze in this last story. We've got the Telegraph now with the latest microaggression against disabled people. And if you don't know what a microaggression is, it's basically an aggression that's so tiny you shouldn't really care about it. Jonathan.
Yes. So the latest microaggression is telling a disabled person they're inspiring is a microaggression, NHS Trust claims. So Gloucestershire Hospitals, the NHS Foundation Trust, has warned doctors not to put people in broad categories or use stereotypes when talking to disabled people. So in the Inclusive Language Guide, it says you'd be guilty of a microaggression if you said to a disabled person, you are so inspiring, and then you pat them on the head and pull their cheeks. Apparently he's not allowed to do that anymore. Apparently that is too far, and you're not allowed to say Mr. and Mrs.
I get the cheeks thing, but surely just saying you're inspiring. I mean, surely that's the one thing.
What if they're like disabled because they're really, really fat, and you're just like, you're so inspiring? Is that?
Oh, when people think it's sarcastic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it could be a bit patronising, but you certainly don't need a guide for it. And they're getting rid of Mr. and Mrs. as well. Toby Young's right here. He says, didn't they get the memo that all this woke gobbledygook has been consigned to the dustbin of history? But there is a caveat to that, which is Morgoth, who's this guy online, he said that the UK is a sort of woke North Korea. We're the last ones doing this stuff on our little island when everyone else is getting rid of it.
Yeah, we're the Japanese soldiers stuck in the jungle who thinks the war is still on. Anyway, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages. The Independent has Zelensky calls for European army to counter Putin, and those are also some hostages released by Hamas. The Mail on Sunday has Army Chief, Prime Minister is heading for the dustbin of history by the end of the week, probably. The Observer has Starmer set to join Europe Crisis Summit on Trump-Ukraine plan. The Sunday Telegraph has architect of Chagos deal raided over cash scam. The Sunday Express has Britons living in fear for economy. Tell me about it. And the Daily Star on Sunday has TV Alan Carr says evil spirit called mother a naughty word. And that's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests Jonathan and Nick. I'll be back tomorrow night, joined by Simon Evans and Kerry Marks. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then stay tuned for breakfast. And I hope I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. It's staying cold as we move through the rest of the weekend, some patchy rain in places, the risk of some snow as well, and lots of grey skies to come. High pressure keeping most weather fronts at bay as we move through the next few days. Fairly cloudy picture across the UK to end Saturday. Still some outbreaks of rain across the east, the risk of some snow for a time across parts of East Anglia as well. And very little change as we head overnight. Lots of cloud for many of us, some further rain and drizzle in places, temperatures dropping close to freezing. So there is the risk of some icy stretches first thing on Sunday morning. Grey skies for many of us, some glimmers of sunshine across the Highlands and the Western Isles, as well as southwest England. So let's look at the details for Sunday morning. Showers across Orkney and Shetland, as well as northern and eastern parts of mainland Scotland. The risk of some snow in there too. Sunshine across the west here, and cloudy skies for Northern Ireland and northern parts of England as well. Fairly cloudy across the rest of England and Wales, some patchy rain in places, a few glimmers of sunshine towards the southwest. But those grey skies are likely to continue for most of us as we go through the day. A keen southeasterly wind making it feel chilly for many of us once more. A few glimmers of sunshine around the coast. Most places drier compared to Saturday, but the clouds thick enough for some spots of rain at times, particularly across northern